So we just sat down, played 2 hours of this new co-op survival action roguelike game called Voltaire. What do you think of the gameplay?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the bosses. The core of the game is you're planting either defensive plants or food to keep down your
Yeah,
hunger.
you plant some crops, you grow some stuff, you try to keep your hunger down, and each night monsters come to attack your base. You can spend these soul stones you get from the bosses to buy permanent upgrades to yourself and your plants. But yeah, daytime, run a farm, nighttime, tower defense. And on the seventh day, a boss comes, you take a portal, you go to a new zone. But I like the tutorial like humor.
Yeah.
They did like make funny characters and like the plot and stuff is kind of funny. You're a vegan vampire is the idea. So rather than, eating humans or whatever, drinking blood, you're growing
And the
veggies.
art for the game was very reminiscent of Don't Starve, and so it's a very sort of aesthetically pleasing sort of movement, and it felt very clean to play the game. So
The followers you get are hilarious. There's like a small dog with
I like
vampire.
the frog. I'm a frog guy.
Like I thought the combat was pretty good. You had a dash. You can kind of choose really early on between like melee or range.
In terms of the mechanics, like that, it felt very nice. Did not like some of the repeated mechanics, but one thing that kept on coming up was you had to get a lot of water, and that took a lot of time. The water runs away.
That's like a hunger drain on its own, and you spend like most of your day kind of chasing that down. I think that the problem that I had with it was once we beat the first boss. So the first week was kind of challenging, and then as soon as we beat the first boss, I think we were just skipping entire days. It really like the challenge kind of immediately subsided. You can't really die. Your house is really tanky.
The perks you get pretty strong pretty quickly. Like the melee attack, the first one, it has a small area of effect, but like within like a few days you get an upgrade and you can get a massively increased area of effect for your attack. You can increase your movement speed to the point that it really diminishes the need to put defensive crops around some of your places. And so the perks felt nice, but it also really diminishes the challenge, I feel.
What about the levels?
The first zone we moved to had two different effects. We could choose we could have water every day, so we don't have to water the plants, or I forget what the other one was, but it gave us some diversity and choices there. Every other zone afterwards was the same for both.
Right, yeah. The only difference between the two zones was potentially the layout. I think that's kind of my fear looking at it right now is when we did 4 zones, one tree changed from an apple tree to a lemon tree. Boss mechanics were pretty light.
It might get more fun if there's more plants. I don't know. It started to drag on a little bit by the third base, and so I don't have too much hope for it. But
my final verdict on that one was I'd give it a 2 out of 5. It wasn't terrible. I think it's cute. I think it's fun. I think it's extraordinarily short. It is an early access. $12 is like pretty cheap, I suppose, but I'm not coming back to it unless there's additional content. All the quests kind of turning into repetitive stuff. I felt like the replayability was kind of carved out in 2 hours.
yeah, I would give it like a 2.2 out of 5. I like the aesthetics. I like the combat. I like the movement, but the sort of novelty dies off post the second zone. It felt like bosses didn't really pose much of a challenge. The hardest thing was just keeping track of all the mobs, but if you just stayed around your base, you were going to be fine, so it didn't really pose too much of a threat. Unless there's more content, probably will not come back to it.
I'd say the one liner for me is like it was cool, it was cute. There just wasn't a lot of game. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. If this kind of content is interesting to you, let us know. And we might do more reviews in the future.